Joining us now, we have senior advisor to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Mark Regev. We appreciate your being on, and we will ask you, is the Prime Minister hearing President Biden's calls for a humanitarian pause, the concern for civilians? There are two, obviously, of many moving parts, the hostages, but also the plight of the civilians. And to sort of consolidate Richard Haass's piece in the Financial Times, Israel must distinguish between Hamas and the people of Gaza. Is there a way strategically to do that?
It's difficult, but we're committed to trying to do our best to do that. Hamas is our enemy, and our operation is targeting Hamas. We're going to destroy its military infrastructure and end its rule of Gaza. And in parallel, we're making a maximum effort to try to safeguard Gaza's civilian population, who are not the target.
How are you doing that?
Well, one of the most obvious ways is the repeated calls to ask Gazan civilians to leave expected combat zones. And hundreds of thousands of Gazans have heeded our calls and have relocated to the south. That's very interesting because, you know, we're supposedly the enemy of the Palestinians, and yet we're asking them to get out of harm's way, while Hamas is actually physically preventing them from leaving, first of all, by setting up these armed roadblocks to stop people from leaving. It's like they want to fight to the very last Gazan civilian.
It's Richard Haass here. You used the phrase, Israel's goal is to, quote, end Hamas's rule of Gaza. So my question is, how do you propose to do it? That sounds a lot like regime change. And what gives you the confidence you can do it? And more important, what would you put in its place? Where do you see as an alternative authority that's willing and able to govern 2 million people in Gaza?
Richard, I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but I don't think we have a choice. There is no modus vivendi for living with Hamas. There were many people who talked about, you know, finding carrots and sticks, deterrence, a combination of deterrence and economic incentives that you could somehow have some sort of quiet with Gaza under Hamas rule. And what we saw on October 7th just showed that that's impossible. There's no stability with Hamas. You can't have a sort of a live and let live with Hamas. They're not prepared for it.
Yeah.
And anyone who thought that the responsibilities of governing 2.3 million people would somehow moderate this organization, well, October the 7th was a very, very stark wake-up call.
But to answer your question, Richard, isn't there another lesson from October 7th? I'm sorry, which is that we know what Hamas is. The lesson of October 7th, as the big story in today's New York Times is that Israeli readiness, Israeli intelligence failed. So if Israeli intelligence and Israeli military learn the lessons of October 7th, doesn't that restore deterrence and defense?
I don't think we're willing to continue to live. I should say for a fact, we're not willing to live next to this terror enclave any longer. It's just not sustainable, and no people would agree to live next to this ISIS on steroids type regime right on our border. But to answer your question, Richard, that you asked before, what is how do we intend to do what we're doing? Our model is what the Americans did against ISIS in Iraq and Syria. There you had an extremist organization that had a territorial control over a particular part of Iraq and Syria. They called it their caliphate. And yet an international coalition destroyed that caliphate. And that's what we're planning to do. We're planning to adopt that model. We don't want to see this Hamas control anymore of the Gaza Strip. It's unsustainable. Those people who think, you know, somehow we can make a quick fix and find some sort of Band-Aid solution, that's just a recipe for more of the sort of massacres we saw on October 7th. We don't want to go back there.
David Ignatius.
I want to ask you, Mr. Regev, about the danger of a widening war. There have been exchanges of rocket fire across the Syrian border, across the Lebanese border. I'm also concerned about the possibility you could have a third front in the West Bank itself. There have been 100 West Bank Palestinians killed. There are settlers who are beginning to take independent action of the Israeli government. Just talk for a moment about what you see as the danger that this war will widen to many fronts.
Well, there's a serious danger, and all eyes are on Hezbollah in Lebanon. Will they, in fact, attack us the same way that Hamas did? Are they going to launch some sort of offensive The only big difference is, David, is obviously we're now not, we've got our eye on the ball. If Hamas succeeded in surprising us and we paid a very dear price for our intelligence failure, we're not going to be surprised by Hezbollah, and we're mobilized, our forces are ready, and if there is aggression from Lebanon, we'll be able to meet it, I think, expeditiously. I hope it doesn't happen. Our policy is fighting and win victory in the south, and in the north, deterrence. But we know it could happen. Here I want to praise President Biden. By moving those aircraft carrier groups to the Middle East, he has sent a message that I think can help minds in Tehran and in Beirut think very carefully about their next steps. And maybe that will serve as de-escalatory, will reduce the probability of a widening war.
Mr. Ambassador, I was hoping you could provide an update on the hostages that are still held there by Hamas. There's some reporting that there had been a stall in talks. Qatar was involved as well as a mediator in recent days. Give us your sense as to how the ground invasion could impact these discussions. And has Israel received any recent assurances that the hostages are still alive?
So we keep revising our numbers, and unfortunately we keep having to revise them up. There are now 239 known hostages being held in the Gaza Strip, and that's after the 4 were released, yes? And to answer your question, our belief in Israel is that Hamas isn't suddenly going to release these hostages out of humanitarian reasons. That's the last thing on their mind. We believe that by beefing up the military pressure on Hamas, as we have been doing, expediting our military operations, hitting them hard, that sort of pressure can help movement on the hostage issue. Combined with, of course, diplomatic pressure on Hamas's allies in the region. They have to understand that their relationship with Hamas is very, very problematic. They have to be under pressure to help solve problems that they've helped create in the first place.
Go ahead, Elise.
Ambassador, you cited the ISIS, the assault in Mosul as an example, and that took over 200 days. So does the Israeli government see this as a long-term operation? And how do you contain civilian casualties when Save the Children has reported that already in just 3 weeks, the number of children killed has been equivalent to every conflict in the world since 2019?
So I'm very skeptical about all the numbers coming out of the Gaza Strip because they're all provided by the Hamas-controlled Ministry of Health. Now, I don't deny there being casualties. And with that
caveat, there have been a lot of children killed.
I have no doubt. Unfortunately, there have been innocent civilians, including children, who've been caught up in the crossfire between us and Hamas. We don't want to see it. And our calls for civilians to leave areas of expected combat, that's, I think, the sign that we don't want to see them caught up in the crossfire. But yeah, I'd like to tell everyone watching Morning Joe that we don't want to see a single civilian casualty, yes, but there hasn't been a war in recent history where there hasn't been civilians caught up in the crossfire in conflict. Even in the American effort to destroy ISIS, the successful effort, the just effort, we know that there were civilian casualties in Mosul. It's our obligation as a democratic society to keep those casualties as low as possible, and that's what we are doing. And that's one of the things we're talking about with the Americans, how to make sure that we hit Hamas, that we destroy Hamas, and at the same time make a maximum effort to avoid harming the civilian population. It's very difficult because Hamas has the opposite goal. Hamas wants to see civilian casualties. Hamas has embedded itself in civilian areas. Its military machine is under urban communities. Its tunnels are under hospitals. This is an organization, like in America and Israel, our militaries are designed to protect our civilians. Hamas inverts that. They use Gaza's civilians to protect their terror machine.
Senior advisor to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Mark Regev, thank you very much for coming on the show this morning. We'll see you again soon.